des faire. Good afternoon. I love that I left Dice with Rice up there. It's me leading the way. Mr. Sean, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but he's actually a cage fighter by profession. And he is away making weight for his next vicious brawl, rocking and rolling. So we are here with me, the tallest man, the youngest man at 40k, and I am ready to talk to you about how to beat those top five. We talked about the top five last week, and today I'm going to talk about keys to beating those lists, keys to beating the things that you're going to see in that top five that are played all the time, and get to the nitty gritty of exactly what we need to do. What we need to do when we put our stuff on the board, besides hope for high dice rolls. That is never a good thing. Also, YOLO swagging into those armies and just hoping to kill everything is not the thing you want to be doing. You want to have a plan of achieving victory, and that is a huge deal. That is, sometimes you can kill everything that's on the board, still going to lose that game. So we're going to talk about the things that you have to do to make sure that you have a chance of victory. Give yourself an opportunity to have an opportunity. Write that down. We're going to talk about World Eaters first, the number 5 right now. Now we're going to use Jack Harpster's list that he played lately. I think this is a lot of the lists that are out there, but you're looking at Angron, almost all of them. You're looking at Avocado, Lord of Juggernaut, basically getting those full rerolls for the blood dice, so in case they get a bad turn, which they won't. Master of Execution's probably the most ridiculous character point per point in the game with the Berserker Glaive. 10 Jackals to take that backfield. Zerkers and a Rhino, 8-bound, Exalted 8-bound, Exalted 8-bound, double cast spawn. Vanilla was running something similar. It's got Karn inside of it with another unit of Zerkers. This list is nasty. It can cover some serious distance, can advance and charge, can get extra movement, and lock you in combat, and really can dominate the board with sticky objectives. They can push you back into the corner, and that is exactly where we're not going to be. Now, the keys to this, I cannot stress enough the keys to this: screen, 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 and pre-measure, pre-measure, pre-measure. I've done this so much. I'm going to say that ad nauseum with this army. You have to make sure that they cannot get those first turn scout moves. They can't get into combat with you. They can't get right away where you are. Infiltrating units, deny those scout moves. Making sure you have physical screens. Making sure that you're set up so that you're not getting double charged. Now, one of the biggest things about this is you have to remember that you don't have to declare everything that you can hit. So for instance, if I have a unit right here and a unit 3 inches behind it, and the Exalted kill this unit and Angron's right here, well, he can just consolidate in and fight that next unit. So you have to have a proper spacing. That's why you pre-measure, pre-measure, pre-measure. Know exactly how far they can go. Also, don't jam yourself in the corner. Baby doesn't go in the corner, because then the World Eaters player just runs up and pauses in the middle, sits on all those objectives. And it's a big deal in that. You have to make sure that you know those distances and you don't get caught in. Once you screen, you have to start actually making those measurements. I see people just back way up. They screen and they super far back up. That's not what you need to do. You need to screen and be just outside of range. So you have to be like, you can't counter if you're too far away. And there's no reason for that World Eater player to bother to push down on you if you're so far back that you're standing on one objective. He'll just stand on the rest of them and just win that game. It's a really strong army. Exactly. 3.1 plus a base is so important of his distance. Exactly. So they can't consolidate into you and just keep fighting. It is such a big deal. I cannot explain to this how big of a deal it is once you get on that board. But you can stop a lot of this. You can make sure that you're screened out. You have to be ready with those counters. Now, one of the biggest things is 95% of the top World Eaters armies have almost no shooting. They have a couple plasma pistols and some bolters and stuff. You have to change how you look at the board as far as if you're doing player place terrain, you got to make that board open. If you're looking at a GW piece, you have to start deploying in places that you normally wouldn't, because you don't want to be in front of that terrain. You didn't want to be shot by things. They don't have anything to shoot you with. You want to be in those perfect positions so that you can overwatch. If you got fall back, so you can screen, you can immediately shoot and counter. Because of the fact that you want to get your full firepower, you want to get all the trash shots. Most of this stuff is still just Marine saves, Zerkers, Marine saves. Most of these things have 3-ups. You know, if you can put a volume of wounds in there, they typically they can have a 6-up Phantom Pain if they pop it, and then they can possibly have a 5-up Phantom Pain if they already have a Phantom Pain. But they're going to take wounds. You're going to put things down. Let's do it. What you got, man? I'm taking guard to LVO with a tank transport spam, and I want to do as well as possible. I have 1 scout sent on my ass. Do I need more and or an infiltrator? 100%. You can't have people just dictating the pace of the game based on the fact that they can make super aggressive moves against you. And what happens is if you don't have the proper screening, then you do get just jammed in the corner and there's nothing you can do about it. It just doesn't matter. You can kill the whole army. We've play tested this multiple times. You can table the World Eater army and or similar armies that want to do this. Orcs want to do this. World Eaters want to do this. Sometimes Chaos builds want to do this. If they put you in the corner, it doesn't matter. You can kill everybody, but you've scored no points. You've denied no points. So yes, 100%. As usual, my making any question long, any short answer is going to be a long one for me. So, but it's a big deal in this because of the fact that you have to have the proper screening. Against this army, screening is key. You're also looking at multiple armies right now that can forward deploy, that can scout up. The new Canoptic, you've got Lich Guard, even the new, sorry, not the Lich Guard, the new Canoptic with Wraiths and everything. You've also got them hopping around with Hyperphase. So you need the ability to push those armies back. They can't be everywhere on the board. It's super important to control this, not just in the beginning of the game. It's not just a turn one thing. It's a continuing the game. It's knowing your spacing. It's spacing. Where can they be? How can I interact with that spacing? Because sometimes just putting 5 guys up means that everybody has to come up and around, which means that you can, again, pressure up without getting hit. It's a big deal on that. Planning on running Canoptic Court at LVO. 3 Immortals and 2 Wraiths, or 3 Wraiths and 2 Immortals. I can't decide what's better. I like more Wraiths, to be perfectly honest with you. I like the infiltrating unit than 2 others. Right now, I think I'm running 2 Flayed Ones, 2 Death Marks, 2 Sentinels, 2 Doomstalkers, and 18 Wraiths and characters. And then the Nightbringer. And that is not set in stone. That is just, it is a multiple valid builds in Necrons. I think they've been doing those codexes 100% right. It's so good in Canoptic. And then basically in Hyperphase, man, you can bring anything. I'm not gonna lie. We've had a lot of success with all of them. It really feels good. I don't know what the secret sauce is yet for that, but the Canoptic, I really enjoy the 18 race. You can just dominate the board. On certain missions, it's just crazy. If you're playing any of the Hammer and Anvil missions, it's the same thing. You also have counters here. You have 4 deployers, use them also. Canoptic list always going tactical. I feel it is. It depends how you build it though. But I really like the Canoptic with, like I said, I like it with Flayed Ones because I like forward deploying. Because again, things like World Eaters exist. But I also like Death Marks because I love to deep strike into my opponent's backfield. And then you almost always have a few points left over for a couple Scarabs. Because they do shenanigans also. They also are your turn 2 blockers, So you have to have enough trash to be able to, especially we're still talking World Eaters here, to get into and stop them. You have to make sure that you have spacing. You want them to fight when you want to fight. You want to be charging them. It's a big KR in this custode screening. You're looking at things like Witch Seekers, Rhinos in the Assassin, and it's a big deal though because you don't have to physically screen everything. You have to basically make it so they just can't reach certain things, and then you can you go. And the thing is that you just have to deal with the fact that if your opponent wants to YOLO swag 11 and 12-inch charges, well, something that's going to happen. It's a dice game. So I'm not going to make it so I can if I can never be charged, to be great. But sometimes you don't have that luxury because you need to have the distance to go to the next objective to be able to challenge. So you're going to have to accept that sometimes, especially if you don't have a high model count army or a forward deploying army. Corey, I just, I feel about big models. That's the problem, is I'm very biased against that. Monolith just still costs a wild amount of points. So I just feel like I can run more stuff with it. I do love the trickery that comes with the monolith, because what is it? 2/3 of the strats all kind of bounce off the monolith. So I don't hate it, but I kind of want it. If it was player place terrain and I had a bigger L, at LVO I might run a monolith, just because I would jam it in one of those chaos pieces or the sanctuary pieces and literally shove it right in the L that has no windows. Because you can literally, I would just put it there and just bounce people there the whole time though. Exactly. The strat support's 100%. That's what I'm saying. It's just such a big deal on that. The strat support's fantastic, but it's just super expensive. It depends on the boards. It literally depends on what I'm playing. If I was playing GW Type 3, I would also use it because I can get about 20 some inches up the board into that piece that's like this, and I would just put it there the entire time, because you could get max value. It's just, if I'm not getting max value out of a expensive piece on the board, I don't want it. And I need to guarantee that I'm getting max value, which means I need a place to hide it, and I need a place to hide it that it's going to be in a perfect spot, because I need value. I don't want to teleport my guys in the middle of nowhere. I want to teleport them into somewhere that's usable, that I can start going after other objectives. I want to contest middle and sides. So if I have a place to put that monolith, that I can consistently move my guys around and get them directly back into the fight and directly back into scoring. So when I do every turn, I look at my units and I go, how am I scoring? How am I denying? How am I setting up for the next turn? And if I can't do that with a monolith every turn, I don't want it. So, and 100% 1 is the only time you're taking that. It's a big deal on that. But you have to get value out of it. And I don't know if I can get value out of it unless I have the proper terrain. So it really goes down to, is it player placed? What type of player placed? Or what type of GW terrain am I looking at? Because I don't like it on 2. I like it on 3. It's just, as long as I have a place to go. That's really about where I want. Go with some Templars, guys. These guys are doing well. And I think that it's not like they're easily countered, but I think that you've got some easy decisions to make with these guys. Let's go with Shorin's list. This is a good list, actually. Castellan, Helbrecht, doesn't have Grimwallis, which makes me sad. 5 Crusaders, Lancer, double Eradicator, double Inceptor. It's got a Redeemer with some 10 Sword Brethren, Templar Dreadnought, Whirlwind, and the Calidus. You see a lot of these lists doing a little bit more mech. Excuse me, you also see a lot of these guys using the Iron Storm detachment. So they're running the triple Whirlwinds on this. And what that is that you have to maintain control of your half of the board. You can move block things like the Land Raider with your vehicles, your scouts, or anything. You can charge them. They just don't have a great attack profile. Love those. Love the dice with rice. But yeah, I mean, what? I feel that that's the best profile Sean's had this entire time we've been doing this. Hands down, not even close. But move blocking that is wildly better than anything else. And the thing is that you want that stuff in there. They're going to have some big hitters in there. They're going to have aggressors in there. They're going to have a giant unit of brethren in there. They're going to have termies in there. The overlords are happy with your Necron assessment. $5 super chat from Corey. Thank you very much, brother. But and I also appreciate the overlords being happy with my assessment. So, and it's a big deal on that. So let's talk about screening plasma inceptors from dropping on objectives. You can't screen inceptors from being on the board on your side of the board, period, most of the time, unless you have just a huge horde army. But you can screen them from dropping on your objectives. I cannot tell you how many times I just drop on objectives when my opponent could have just like literally shifted forward a little bit. All you have to do is block that 3 inches off the objective. They can't really stop them from going places, but you can stop them from stealing things from you. especially when you've got the ability to make things sticky. That's a huge deal. Don't let somebody steal away your sticky objective because they could toe touch in on your objective. Only a couple guys. You can have one big base in the middle and just push those completely off. It's a big, big deal to make sure you're not losing points. Small things, keeping them off the objectives is a huge thing. In the end, all of this army is almost always just Marine bodies. That means they die to Marine body shit, which means put a volume of fire into them. They're 3-up save guys. That is just really, really a big deal. One of the other things is, especially against this army, slow the game pace down. When I say slow the game pace down, I don't mean walk away from your table, but like draw this game out. Don't make it this one big attack, because they're really good at focus firing everything, dropping all their Inceptors, slamming into you with the Sword Brethren, running up and flaming you with that Land Raider. Pick off pieces. Make this a long game. They start to lose pieces. They start to lose critical mass in the ability to be able to take care of the rest of your stuff. This army has not super fast reach out and touch someone, and they start to open up holes and gaps. You can get back and hit those whirlwinds. You can go back and pick up some of those pieces. It's very important that you start to pick up pieces as you go. You have to just pick up pieces, pick up pieces, pick up pieces, pick up pieces. I don't want to fight this one slam into everybody game, because that's what they're trying to make. A lot of these armies are just trying to make that for you. They want to hit you with a ton of Sword Brethren, a ton of aggressors, jump in behind you with Inceptors and just pick up a bunch of your pieces. Take out some of their steam. Make this a longer game. Make them play 5 turns. That is where you're going to get full value out of this. Because when you're playing the Templars, they're mainly playing either Ironstorm, or they're playing the whatever the Black Templars one is called. I always forget. So they're playing one of those. They don't have a ton of shenanigans and movement abilities. So once they start dropping things places, you know exactly where they are. So making this into a longer game gives you way more ability to play shenanigans against them, because they lose their shenanigans ability. See? Too much shenanigans. But it's a big deal on this, is that you keep them in front of you, keep them where you want to be, take out the Inceptors, give the Inceptors somewhere to go. Don't give it an objective on it. A lot of times what I do against Inceptors is I just give them that target that they want, and I just take my hit and I pick them up, and then I don't have to deal with them anymore. I mean, I'm not trying to lose the game on it, but like give them a nice tempting target and have them hit it, and then delete them and move on with your game. And then all of a sudden everything is in front of you, because they don't have the ability to recycle things back. So this is a big thing when you're playing against this army. That Ironstorm army is very, very good, but it doesn't have any crazy tricks. It's just good. It just has reliable damage. So you need to start picking things up, scoring, making them be places they don't want to be, making those brethren get out, annihilate them, overwhelm them. Always make sure you're cheating the dice in your favor, which is make it so that you have a huge statistical chance to pick up that unit, delete it, move on with your life. Oh, 100%, Austin. I was playing the Vanguard this weekend, and it's just, if you don't kill my Inceptors, I'll just immediately pick them back up and shenanigans somewhere else on the board. So Inceptors are a must. I really think that whenever an Inceptor unit comes down, you have to delete it. It's just a delete button on that, especially against Vanguard, because they can pick them back up into reserve, and then they can just show up somewhere else that you don't want them. You don't want Inceptors in your backfield on turn 4 and 5. It's just such a big thing on that. 100% I agree on that quote. So, I don't know if it was a quote. I'm quoting you. Not just a comment, but now a quote. You've stated something and it is there for the record. So, let's talk about some League of Votann, because I see that this army does really well, and it doesn't seal the deal all the time, because I feel like it has very playable, like your tactics to play into it are very basic. It's not like this isn't very difficult army, but like the things you're going to do are just standard things. We're going to go into Nick Keefer's Votann. Iron Master, Echamp, Grimnir, Call, double warriors that are going in Sagittars, Thunderkin, some Zerks, 2 units of Hearthguard, 2 units of Bikes, and 6 Sag. You see a lot of lists that look similar to this. We saw Colin at Everwinter ran 3 Chunky Boys in Land Fortresses, but all of these have very similar ways they're going to do stuff. They're trying to set up lanes. They're trying to delete things. They don't have a ton of data sheets, so it's one of the things where you have to figure out who's in reserve, Hearthgan, Thunderguard, screen them out. Once they're there, they're very slow. The only thing that can go back into reserve is the bikes. So it's very, very important to make sure you know what the distances are, what's in reserve. You should be asking this any time, every game, every turn. What's in reserve? What do you have? What's the range on these things? You have to ask her. That's why pre-measure is always a thing. But you screen them out. And when I say screen them out, it's not just physically screen them out so they can't get to something. Screen them out and measure out your angles. So when someone deep strike in, they can't see what you don't want them to see. And that's very easy to do. They have a very damaging army. It is a big deal on that. So Votann wants to kill stuff. They have a hard time scoring sometimes when they're doing that. They have a great ability to just delete things, but they have a hard time taking and holding objectives. It's a big deal on that. Flyers good at killing them? Flyers are decent at killing them, to be honest with you. So, but the Storm Ravens are basically, I was surprised at the Storm Ravens list, to be honest with you. They do have a huge volume of shots, though. It is fundamentals. It's basically, they're going to try to set up lines of fire and delete things on flanks. You need to set that up so you make them pay every time they're deleting something. And when I say make them pay, you can't have people shooting you at full distance. Don't just stand on an objective that just puts you standing in the open. You can't deny all the shots, but you can mitigate most of the shots. And what you can do is, if someone gets a line of sight on you, you need to make them in such a position on the board that they have to pay for it. You can countercharge them. You can countershoot them. You can hopefully countershoot them from behind something, so it's, again, difficult for them to get shots back at you. It's important that you're not just standing in front of them and doing a Braveheart fight where you're just standing across and shooting with them. They're magical at that. These guys have mad damage on it. So move and take up. They don't have a ton of hand-to-hand either. They've got Zerks, you got the Echamp, the Hearthguard kind of hit. It's a big deal on that. So, like, there's no reason to just stand and get into a shooting war from distance on this. Move up, mitigate damage, score points. Score points, score points, score points. Storm Raven double twin link plasma cannon is a beautiful weapon and ugly bird. I have so many of those. But excuse me, it's a big deal when you're looking at this list that you don't get in long firefights here. Don't be at the max range on this. Make them go places they don't want to go. All of their vehicles, especially when you look at like the chunky boys, when you're looking at land fortresses, that's an awkward vehicle to move. It's just a big square, you know what I mean? So you can block that off fairly easily on that. And the Sagittars, while fantastic for their points, are still not that durable of a vehicle. You can pick them up sometimes 2-for-1s on that. So you need to start taking away their resources, and you need to take them away and also make them commit to spaces that they don't want to be. Use your terrain. Make them go. If they're getting line of sight on you, make them go someplace where they don't want to be, so you can counter that, so you can get up on top of that. If you just stand and try to trade with Hearth or with League of Votann, you're going to be sad. It's a big deal. It's 100%, Shazzy. Votann think 2 turns ahead. It's like Marines. They got to abuse simple fundamentals and core rules. It's what we do. Yep. Move block, pre-measure, and taxi spade, and using units correctly. 1,000%. I cannot state that enough. It's just, like I said, this isn't easy to do. It's just fundamentally a very basic plan of attack when you're looking at Votann, because of the fact that they only have X amount of data sheets and they can only play them a certain way. So if you keep fundamentally putting them in a place they don't want to be, you're going to start winning those trades. They lower their points. They have a decent amount of stuff now. They hit really hard, but you can start taking that away. And if you're scoring the entire time, you can really keep that Votann army down. So even if it looks like a horrible bloody game, you can outscore this army quite a bit, because they don't have a great amount of nonsense units to go do behind, to go put up a teleport home or anything like that. And if your army doesn't give away fixed, they don't always have a great place to be for that. So you can just outscore this army. As always, like and subscribe, please. Dice with Rice, Death or Glory, please. It really helps us out. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Helps a ton. Helps whether you know, actually. The analytics are insane. They're so crazy about that. CSM. I played a ton of this weekend. Oh, God, this is a crazy army to play against. We put up Will Whitaker's list. Triple Lord, Triple Chosen. He has triple Accursed with triple Dark Commune. Double Forge Fiend, double Rhino. I don't know why the ones are divided. I would just assume it'll all be Nurgling. Selesky, who's annoying because she gets back up. And 2 Nurglings just the screen out. Just forward deploy. Really annoy your opponent. This army is very difficult to play against for a couple different reasons. Now, one of the things is you have to know your distances. It's important. For instance, they can possibly go 27 out of the Rhino. Their total threat range with getting moving, disembarking, advancing, and then charging, of course. So you have to know what your distances are. Also, the Accursed Cultists can advance and charge once a game. They could be, in that same turn that they're doing that, they're going to be +1 to hit, +1 to wound. And they're going to pop full rerolls to hit. Full rerolls to hit and full rerolls to wound on that. That's a ton. Just a ton of attacks on that, especially from the big boys. I mean, you got 6 big boys. You're looking at 66 + 12. Rerolling everything at +1 at the strength 5 hit with 2 damage. It is crazy time what they can do. So you have to know your distances and you have to start picking things off. Trade things away. You don't want to let them trade up into you. Oh, Accursed Cultists are crazy. And the thing is with the Accursed Cultists, don't engage the Accursed Cultists unless you're going to pick them up. They regen on your command phase and their command phase. So they just get 3 guys back, 3 guys back, 3 guys back. All of a sudden, nothing's happened to the squad and you just wasted some shots into them. You have to get value every time. Also, when you're looking at it, make them use that Nurgle strat. Just target something and then shoot something that you really wanted to shoot. But give yourself an option on it. You need to start deleting things. Sean puts out shorten the game. It's important that you start picking up pieces. And you want to 2-for-1 those pieces. If you have the ability, Marines, it's a little bit easier sometimes with the Inceptors because I'll drop in, I'll have something move up and kill one of the Rhinos, and then I'll immediately delete the Chosen side with the Inceptors that I just dropped down. So you have to look for those 2-for-1s. You have to look to pick up full squads. You have to make them spend CP. If you've got a Vect, oh my God, just put it on that Undivided strat, put it on, make them churn away their CP. Their CP is so valuable for them. For rerolls, for untargetability, it's huge on that. I mean, they're literally 100%. Accursed Cultists are in every single way better than Necron Warriors. It's laughable. The Accursed Cultists are actually mad that you compared them to Necron Warriors because they're so much better than Necron Warriors. They're like, why would you even put that conversation out there? Yeah, whole army of sock puppets, 1,000%. And it's a big deal in this, is that you have to, I just broke my headphones again. You have to start picking up the pieces of this army. You can't let them crowd you into the back, which means that you have to start grabbing the Rhinos, start hitting flanks. One of the biggest things is you want to hit flanks super, super hard. You have to draw them away because they have to look at where could you be. So I'm looking to hit flanks. I'm not looking to be in the middle. If I'm looking to stand in the middle, it literally becomes all the Chosen from each side end up just collapsing on top of me. I need to hit the sides. It's always about spacing and pre-measuring. Pre-measure. I cannot state this enough. But the biggest thing is that you have to start taking pieces off the board because they're looking to trade up. They have such cheap units. Chosen with the Lord. Accursed Cultists are wildly cheap for what they do. You need to start deleting things. And you need to start deleting things on flanks. Standing in the middle is just the way to lose to CSM. Sometimes you're going to have to just give the middle away, by the way. So, and you're going to have to set up those kill boxes for your Chosen. And when I say set them up, is you're going to have to basically kill the hard chocolate shell and get into the gooey center. You got to pick everything up. So make sure that you're getting within 12, picking that box up, having units that are around them. Did this multiple times over the weekend where I just dropped in, picked up the rhino, picked up the whatever, and then you delete everything inside. You have to pick up everything that they do on that. Every time that you come in, you have to get favorable trades. And we mean rhino, 2 5-mans, gone, 10-man, whatever. You got to pick all that stuff up. You can't just nickel and dime, because the Lord and one guy will literally pick up a squad of something. So it's important that you delete the entire thing, which means you have to start focusing on flanks, which also means that I'm not going to places that I'm not going to do anything with. I'm going to put trash units. I'm going to screen. I'm going to move block a flank, and I'm going to hit the other flank. The CSM is very difficult to play against because of the fact that they can extend the distances very well. And they also play in all phases of the game because they have melee, because they have shooting. So there's a lot of people that you can just kind of move up on, and they have great shooting, but you're not really worried about them punching you. This is an army that can. So you have to. Yeah, it's regenning whatever is like just ridiculous. It's such a big deal in this that you know what their distances are, so that you can plan against them. You even just putting like a trash unit between you and the other rhino. If you're going to hit the one rhino, so a lot of times they're going to have rhino. If you're not just standing in the center, only one of them is going to be able to get to you, especially if you just put something in front. Literally run up and tag the rhino, grab it, make them get out on the other side, make them not be able to move the rhino for a turn. It's such a big deal because of the fact that you don't want them moving up and staging, moving up and being where they need to, pushing you back, pushing you off objectives. You have to play your game against this army. If you let them dictate the pace of the game, you'll lose this game. This army's insane. You have to dictate the pacing of where the fights are and where you're going to fight. I mean, it's insane. It is. I mean, it's a big deal. The packs, the rerolls, lethal or sustain, is just nuts. So it's a really big deal that you choose where your fights are happening and that you're deleting things. You have to have screening units. You have to have what is the unit that's going to stop this flank from coming over here. Because sometimes all you have to do is delay a turn. If I want to delete everything over here, I played Vital as the last mission against Chaos. I took out the vehicle and all 10 chosen, and I had just pushed the other guys back enough where they couldn't support the other side of the board. I gave away this objective for 2 turns. I kept shooting at it, but I deleted this. So then I now have the chance to go take some other things out. And it's important that you can't constantly do that. I had to play CSM back to back in my 4th and 5th games this weekend. And it was a big deal that each time I'm literally 100% focused on deleting one flank of the board and move blocking the other. You can't play against CSM and just YOLO swag the board because their counterattack's going to pick up 80% of your army. You have to focus down one side, kill everything, shortening that game, deleting their resources. It's super important. Yeah, I mean, you just need them to come out. You need those guys out. The Chosen have to be out. The Nurgle strat is bonkers town. The Nurgle strat just straight up says one of the Nurgle units on the board can't be targeted unless you're within 12. Basically, use them low out. So yeah, you want them to be burning stuff for one. So you're like, hey, I'm going to target this. And then they're like, okay, well, I have to burn it here. Then you target the actual thing you want. Yeah, I love it, Austin. Can't YOLO sweat the board? Are you even an orc? Even with my orcs, I always focus down one side of the board. And the Gretchen and other trash are in charge of holding up the fort. Matter of fact, I love sending Gretchen, Stormboys, whoever, and just making a big line of touching rhinos and everything else and getting in the way for a turn. And then you YOLO swag afterwards. It's just important that they're just so underpointed, underpowered on their strats for what you're doing. You just can't play a fair game. You have to focus down a flank. It's just, period. You know what I mean? And you can't be setting up and forgetting about certain things. You have to remind yourself what's in reserve. Hey, look, a Forge Vein? No way. I can't believe it. Where's that coming out? How can I screen it out? because I don't want a million shots dumped into me with mortal wounds from the Nurgle, or just a billion wounds straight up from the Undivided one, because they're going to have one of each. And you got to know where those guys are, what their range is, what you can measure out. Where's their total threat range? Can I set up behind this wall and barely peek out and kill this and not be shot from that? It's important. Again, pre-measure, pre-measure, pre-measure. You have to focus this stuff down. It's not 2 games in a row I had to play this. It's very mentally draining. So there's a lot of mental fatigue that goes into playing against Chaos, because you have to be on top of your distances and getting your movement ready, getting your blocks ready, and knowing when you have to just sacrifice an objective for a turn or two, and just dealing with what you can. Because if you try to deal with all of it, you're just not. I'm sorry, but you're just not going to be able to. It's one of those things. This is a ridiculous army. It just is. I mean, they're going to get hit in the data slate. Who knows how hard they're going to get hit? But this is a beatable army. Everything's beatable. You just have to understand how. And you have to understand how to not. You got to look at what they want to do. What are their weaknesses? What are they afraid of? Score more points. Again, it's not going to work every time, but you have to have a plan that you're going to score more points than your opponent. And you have to know how you're doing that. Just going in and going, hey, I want to kill some shit, isn't going to win the game. Why, every time we talked about it with the World Eaters, we talked about it with CSM. You can't be jammed into the corner, because it doesn't matter. You might kill them on your counter blows and totally crush that army, but it doesn't matter. Orcs do the same thing, where they just put you in a corner, and then you're like, hey, I killed the whole army. And you're like, great, I scored a 40, so now I lost the game, so it doesn't matter. So it's just important that you understand, how am I winning? Sometimes you have to take a few units of loss, which means, and I want them to be valuable losses. I want them to be move blocking losses to make sure that my opponent can't get to the other side of the screen. So I want to make sure that they are where I want them to be, as opposed to where they want to be. Exactly. Shazzaberry goes, I played GK into CSM, ran circles around everyone. They were so lost because I measured their throw range and picked up every one flanked. It's just, you have to take away their threats, and you can't give them easy threats in return. The CSM player wants to hit your stuff and hide behind a wall. They can get a 2-for-1 with their undercosted units. Oh, that's just the key to losing at that point in time. This army is fully beatable. It's just that it requires a ton of pre-planning, a ton of pre-measuring. It just does. It's a really strong army. There's a reason why that this makes up, 50 or 60% of all top 8s right now. It's just crazy. And let's go into, I know you guys are going to be super shocked on who's still number 1. What, Eldari? Man, they must have really snuck into that position. They've been doing pretty bad since 10th edition. Without Sean here, it is kind of weird when I take a drink, because no one else is talking. That's okay. I love hearing my own voice anyways. But let's talk about Eldar. We got Vic VJ's list. Yinkarn is always going to be there. The Wayleaper is ridiculous. Phoenix Gem lets him get up once a game. Hugin also gets up. Farseer, Spirit Seer going in the Wraith Guard. Double Warp Spiders, Shadow Specters. I don't like the Exarch at all. And Triple Night Spinner. Now, this is such a ridiculous army in the shenanigans they can do. They've nerfed them twice already. I mean, it needs to be triple nerfed. Killer objective scores. You're not wrong. It's really about killing the trash. I just see people constantly focusing down on the Wraith Guard, and it hurts my soul. It's not that fast of a unit. It can Phantasm because it's infantry. You can move block it. It doesn't have very good stats in hand-to-hand. Make them spend their CP on falling back and doing something. Put nonsense units into them. Get in the way. Don't shoot them because they can shoot as a reaction to you shooting them. Like, you can just put 5 scouts. You can put 5 flayed ones. You can put a multitude of random nonsense 1.1 inches away from them. They can't move over you. They're random infantry with a big old base. kill all of their scoring units. It's such a big deal. You have to get to that. Pick up the spiders, the specters, the whatever. They have to put something on the objectives. Don't give them stuff to do. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. Lightly breathe in the direction of the Incarn. Physically breathe on it, because while the model's tough in the game, holy crap, does that thing break apart at a moment's notice. I mean, it is. Wraithguard are kind of like punch cards. You just ignore them for a while. Unless you're getting in with devastating attacks. I played them over the weekend. I played them twice. I can't remember. I played them at least once. If you can get into them, do huge damage to them. Yes, do that. I got into them. He let me get a little too close, and I put Calgaran boys into them. I picked up 7 of them. I'm willing to do that. But otherwise, just move block them. It's such a big deal in that. One of the biggest things, and I know it's difficult, it's more difficult for certain armies than others, you gotta get to the Night Spinners. You're just gonna be ruined. The fact that the Spinners make you -2 to move with no advance, and they're twin linked with devastating wounds, means you're just gonna lose the indirect war over time if you're trying to be too tricksy, because they're just gonna pick up your shit. And they're gonna make it so that you can't get to places you want to be. You're not going to be able to cut the angles. They know exactly how far you can go, because now you're slow as shit. So you have to be able to get to this. And you're getting to this by reserves. You're getting to this by redeploys. You're getting to this by anything that can pick up and put down. Hyperspace, GK, coming in from reserves, Vanguard, things of that nature. They don't have that much shit anymore. They have raised the price significantly of all these units. Like, when you look at this list that he brought, it's very little stuff. Also, Night Spinners have a huge space that they take up. They got a big old butt. You have to make sure that you're getting those angles on them. Start picking them up, come in from the side, put some las cannons on them, put some grav on them, put some whatever on them. They're 3-up save guys, you know what I mean? You can just start banging into those Night Spinners and just start doing some serious damage right away. A unit of Inceptor Plasma Scepters will deuce that one up. You know what I mean? It's just whatever you use on that. If you can pick up those spinners and pick up the trash, and they have Wraithguard and Neon Karn left, you're fine in that game. It's just a big deal. Oh, I'm 100%. Your trash in, again, with the orcs is in strategic reserve, unless you just want the Incarn on your side of the board. I mean, maybe you do. And just, go punch him on your side. But the problem is then you're charging into the back of your backfield. And do you really want to be there? Probably not. So it's important that you just play this game out. You got to take out the trash. I mean, it's just a big deal. Sean did this because I did this weekend. I lost my mind in my 3rd game and just kept deciding to shoot trash. And then the Incarn teleported away from my 6 Centurion Devastators because I didn't listen to Robert Downey Jr. and just went full idiot. So it's a big deal on that, to make sure you have target priority. If you're going to shoot if you've got set up for the Incarn, don't kill other stuff first. So one of the big things, though, is you're going to basically ignore the Wraithguard and the Incarn for a couple turns. You're going to take out all the trash. You're going to try to get lines on the Night Spinners. If they only have one unit of Wraithguard and one unit Incarn, you're going to win that game. You just go all of the corners and just score points. Also, the Wraithguard, 18-inch gun, like, can't advance and charge. You know what I mean? You can space that out. You can move block it. The Incarn, monster. Still not zooming through walls. I mean, obviously can teleport, but if you've killed those Night Spinners, they don't have a way to just kill something next to you and just show up. So, like, look at where they can actually go. Sometimes I've just not killed trash because I liked where the Incarn was. It's like, specifically, I'm just like, well, I kind of am not going to kill these last 2 spiders over here because I don't want the Incarn to be able to teleport 40 inches across the board and actually be useful again. I'll make him walk the rest of the way at the end of the game. Stole my thunder, Austin. I was just about to go into this. But excellent comment. When you're looking to kill hard targets, especially things like the Incarn, use the grenade strat. It's not, everybody has grenades, it feels like. You know, you're looking at an average of 3 mortals right there. No defense against it. No feel, no pain, no anything. Tank shock. Slam in. Just go roll tons of dice. Just chipping them away with mortals. It's so huge on that. Playing Marines, playing orcs. You just go, okay, here's 3 mortals. Cool. Against orcs, it's wildly easy sometimes because you just go, cool, here's bomb squigs, here's the grenade strat, here's a tank shot. Cool, you're dead. I'm going to move on with my life. Poor Necrons, not having grenades, but they do have a ton of everything else. They're also like really annoying for the Incarn to kill because it doesn't have rerolls. So it's got Eldar rerolls. It just doesn't have full rerolls. I'm spoiled now with anything that doesn't have full rerolls on everything. But it's a big deal in that to look for ways to kill. Some of these strats are just underused. You know what is overused? Stop rerolling a die. Unless you're rerolling a 1 die reroll, unless it's game breaking where you're keeping a character alive, you're taking an objective, you're denying 5 or 10 points, I'm just never rerolling a die. It's just, they're rerolling 1 roll is almost never worth it unless it's just a huge points roll. That's about the only time I'm doing it, because most of the time what happens is I don't have the CP later to tank shock, to grenade strat, to use the fall back, whatever your great strats are. You're just burning on some nonsense roll. You know, especially that goes also with using defensive and or offensive strats. When you're going to overkill something anyways, don't use an offensive strat. If you're going to get killed no matter what, don't use a defensive strat. Don't pop your armor or contempt type strat. Don't pop -1 to hit. You're looking at, does this statistically keep me alive? No? Well, just don't use it, because you're burning CP. That CP is just so valuable, especially later in the game when you wanted to kill the Incarn with grenades and tank shock, when you wanted to fall back and shoot. I mean, it's such a big deal. Killing the Incarn with damage is a struggle, but the thing is that when a lot of times I'm not looking to kill the Incarn. Played the Incarn twice yesterday, over the weekend. So I played him on. And both times I just never killed him. And I'm okay with that, because I killed the Night Spinners, I killed the trash. So there was a unit of Wraith Guard, and, well, one of the games there wasn't, because Marius Calgar came to town. I did what I did before Calgar came to town. But it's a big deal on that. So, you know, sometimes you just gotta move away. Don't let them see you. That's a big deal on that. So, you know, I'm gonna go to the wall here. What are you guys', besides the armies I went over today right now, what are the armies that you guys have been having the most problems with? Is really want to do, because I want to put up some, for future episodes, I want to go into some really specifics, because we're going to go back into some real faction focuses. But as far as like, what threats has everyone been seeing that they've been having a huge problem with? Because a lot of these are mainly how to deal with archetypes, to be perfectly honest, not just the army itself. Where do you value CP batteries? They stay wildly good. The main reason I'm playing Marnius Calgar in my Vanguard list right now, playing as Ultramarines instead of Dark Angels, is because I wanted CP regen, and Azrael can only join a barbershop quartet or 2 guys he met downtown under a bridge. Always taking tactical, so I can't discard his Necron. It seems like I'm using 0 CP Overlord strat is almost always better. It's a big deal. I did go over Votann and World Eaters. Check that out in the beginning, 100%. Chaos Knights are a problem. Chaos Knights are always a difficult army, but what the thing is that you have to focus. Move block, move block, move block. I cannot stress enough move blocking. And yes, I know that they can use a CP strat to go through walls and stuff like that, but they still have to fit. And that's a gigantic base. You can just manipulate. That's why pre-measure. Sit behind those walls, but make it so that there is no place for that base to be set. Work on one flank at a time. When I'm working on knights, I kill 2 small knights a turn, and I move block the other side. 2, move block, 2, move block. It's not an easy game, but it's a very basic way to play. You don't want to get just sitting here getting uh brigands just hitting you in twos. They will volume you out. It's not like they're at the end of the world with their shots, but man, they will. So you got to delete the initial threats that are come at you. You don't want them, running out with giant claws and cutting your guys in half. So you got to deal with the immediate threats, move block the other sides at all times. And CKR problem. But again, pre-measure, everyone. When I say pre-measure on this, I'm not just talking their distance they can. Look at where they can fit. Because a lot of times you're like, oh crap, they can just use that CP strat. They're going to move through that wall. They're going to get me no matter what. Sometimes just moving one or two guys over doesn't let them have a physical space to put that model. So they have to go all the way around still. So it's a big deal when you're dealing with that. And again, it's not easy. But one of my other games I played this weekend was CK. And it's just one of those focus down one side, move block the other side. They're still just not moving through your models. All those little guys still have all the same constraints. Don't give them places to go. It's a big deal on that. So, it's a crazy thing on that. Thinking a good guard player, and this is a future issue. I don't know, KR, why the guard aren't winning more. I think that's we've been focused more on a team tournament version of guard, which is super heavy and direct. And we're going to try to pick our matches. So, but yes, guard is crazy on that. Monster Mash Nids is a threat in the game all the time. It is really swingy on that, but you're going to have to, again, and I hate to say it, but like you're looking at pre-measure. I know it goes into every game, but when you're looking at Monster Mash Nids and Demons, you don't affect the entire board. The problem most of the time is everybody pushes and goes, I'm going to kill this. And when you don't kill this because they roll 4-ups, you have 4 big Nids or big Demons, and they're all at 3 or 4 wounds, and then they swamp you. You have to move block that and deal with one flank at a time. You just have to. Get people in threats, making them go to places they don't want to be. They also don't want to. You want to be shooting them off, make them come off objectives. So, and the thing is that those armies are super, super tough, but, you can just nickel and dime them down because they don't have that many models to play the game. So you're looking to outscore them also. If they want to sit on 1 or 2 objectives and you sit on another 2 objectives and go, I'm going to score better secondaries than you. That's how I deal with Monster Mashes most of the time. Monster Mash Demons and Nids is I'm going to score more points by killing everything that's not the big guys, focus firing 1 or 2 of the big guys, and just letting them park on an objective or 2, and I'll just score more points. So if they can't leave the objective now. So they just kind of stand there and yell at you to fight them. No, thank you. Played a team tournament over the weekend. I got paired into Unending Swarm twice against WGC players. Don't know how to win that even if I don't have the damage to kill 2 blobs a turn. Basically what you do is you kill 1 and 2 halves instead of 2, to be honest with you. It depends on what the Turbogon count is, because of the fact that they can only regen so many guys. So you kind of shoot up the entire board if they don't have enough regen. And then you start putting down 2 or 3 plus units a turn after you've started weakening stuff down. So they don't have a huge amount of damage in that army. It's just super annoying. So, and you have to make sure, that's why I'm so big right now about having a versatile army, no matter what you bring, because of the fact that there's things like Unending Swarm. Just, you've got a couple of these AdMech lists where I think they're going to put 1 million bodies on the board. You've got a multiple list that can just put like a ton of people on there. So you have to have enough shots. And then when you're looking at that is, I'm only going to, again, focus fire down, but I'm going to start not going to focus fire. Weirdly enough, usually I say kill a unit till it's dead, kill a unit, kill a unit, kill a unit. With the Nins, depending on what kind of regen they have, I'm going to shoot up the entire board. And I'm going to shoot up 1 unit because I want to burn their CP down, because I'm going to make them spend that 2 CP to bring those guys back. Yeah, I mean, GK is super annoying. Yeah, some armies just have enough volume. I mean, the army that I'm playing right now, between just the fact that they have 1 million blast and they can only use the blast strat on one thing, you can really put a dumb amount of shots into them, And like things like bolters are just insanity against Swarm. There's still a bunch of T3 dudes. You know what I mean? So you have to set up, and the thing is always, as always, it's not just about killing, it's about scoring. Score, 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 score. You have to have your plan in place, not just to kill things, to score more points than your opponent. It is unbelievably important that you have a plan for how you're going to score. It's not always going to go perfect, but you have to have it in place, or you're just going to play what I call reactive 40k, which is you're going to kill shit that gets put right in front of you, and that's all that's going to happen the entire game. And instead of winning the game, you're just going to kill a shit ton of models. So it's going to feel like you killed a bunch of stuff, but you're not going to score any points, or you're not going to score enough points most of the time. Sisters and Wolves are getting up there. Sisters like are just have the ability to score a ton of points. So if you're falling into the trap, which I was just saying, which is just killing people's models, Sisters will win against you because they are going to put up big points. They're fantastic at scoring secondaries, and they have just so many units that they can deny primary quite a bit. So it's a big deal on that. And Wolves are playing two different lists right now. I've actually seen a lot of Ironstorm lists, and I've seen some Stormlance lists in Wolves. So like Wolves it really depends on which Wolves army you're talking about for that, because they're pretty crazily different with what they do. So, and on that note, I'm gonna give everybody the Queen's Wave. Please, again, like and subscribe. Join Patreon if you can. It really helps out. It keeps the channel going. Keeps me from living in my car, or at least having a car, even though I don't drive for shit. But appreciate everybody hanging out with me, and I'm gonna start putting up polls in the DOG discords and a couple other. I'll throw a couple up in Reddit. So I'm gonna start that in January all the time, but I want to put up and see what people would like to see on a week by week basis. How do we Scary in January? We'll go over that. The Brad Hour. And also, the thing is I'm going to put up a couple polls, because what I'm going to start doing on off Sundays and things of that nature is I'd like to start doing it early, maybe too early for some of you guys, but I want to do like an 11 or 12 Sunday, because before I game, because I usually game at like noon or 1, and do an hour every once in a while to just talk about, have a question and answer session. But I'd like to get pre-questions before then, so I'd have the ability to look through these a lot. So that's all the things. I'm definitely going to Glass City. It's my home tournament. I will be at Glass City, and I'll be ready to rock and or roll. Until then, stay milky.